number 24 that I think everyone who takes spouse selection seriously needs to take into consideration. And this truth, this principle, this axiom is as follows. Just because someone is a good person does not mean they're a good partner for you. Just because they're fine doesn't mean they're a fit. Just because they're rich with coin doesn't mean they're ready for commitment. Just because they're pretty doesn't mean they prepare. And just because you have chemistry doesn't mean we have compatibility. Therefore, every person that wants to make wise decisions when it comes to spouse selection must learn the difference between desirability and suitability. Just because you want them doesn't mean you need them, and just because it feels good when you are together doesn't mean things are good when you get together. They may be romantic, but that doesn't mean they're responsible. Romance plans the dates, but responsibility pays the bills. It keeps the promises. It tells the truth. It doesn't blow our accounts, doesn't take our arguments to the internet, doesn't embarrass our family, and doesn't put my health in jeopardy in my house because you're running reckless in these streets. Responsibility. Therefore, everybody who takes spouse selection seriously must have a healthy and biblical theology of suitability. Just because they are smart, just because they are successful, y'all not ready for this, and just because they saved, does not mean they are suitable. And this theology of suitability is anchored in a passage in Genesis chapter number 2, verse number 18. It's an interesting statement that God makes. It's a statement that God makes after he engages in the creation of Adam. He steps back and does some observation and evaluation of his creation and comes to this conclusion: it's not good that what I just created, based on the assignment that I've given him, it is not good that he exists in isolation. He will never experience optimization as long as he's operating in isolation, and he needs something that I'm not going to give him directly and the animals can't give him. So he says, I'm going to have to make what he needs. Let me go. God says what he needs is so specific, it's so customized, it's so consequential. I can't give him something random. I've got to give him something customized, unique, extraordinary, special. I got to make what he needs. So let me put him to sleep, which represents a season of inactivity. And after a season of inactivity, I'm going to pull something out of him. And then I'm going to make something for him that when he sees what I sent, he's going to say, now this right here is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And some of your dating conundrums is you've been making generic choices when you got a customized assignment. God's like, I'm going to have to make yours. You're not just going to get that off the shelf. I'm going to have to make yours. I will make for him a helper suitable. A helper that's suitable. Right? Because some people confuse and conflate submission with subordination. We're going to deal with it later, but you cannot get submission in marriage right without getting the Trinity right, because the Trinity models for you what it means not to be a subordinate, but to submit. The second person of the Trinity thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but he lowered himself and submitted to someone he was equal to because the mission required somebody to get under it. And if you have to make somebody a subordinate to get them to submit, that says a lot about your leadership, not just their nature. Because if you'll lead her like Christ, she'll submit like the church. Yeah, some people are not submitting because they're arrogant and because they're dealing with unprocessed trauma and cynical. But then some people aren't submitting because honestly they love you, but they don't see you as safe. They trust your character, but they don't trust your judgment. When you take bill money and buy a boat, you want me to submit? Okay, let me. That's not what we're talking about, though. He says, helper, suitable. It's really weird. It's just really weird because he uses this interesting word here. It modifies Ezra. It's suitable. It's corresponding to him. It is as like in front of or like opposite in front of. It's interesting. It's facing him as a counterpart rather than duplicating him. This is interesting. Culture calls it compatibility. We call it suitability. Here it is. Don't miss this interesting word here. We're not the opposite and we're not the same. But like two pieces of a puzzle, we fit. So biblical suitability is this. We're similar enough to connect. We're distinct enough to complete. We're capable enough to fulfill. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I see me in you without having to conjure up trivial similarities. Because all similarities aren't equally significant. And some people are defining chemistry based on insignificant similarities. We like the same movie, so we should be together. How is that going to affect the relationship? Oh my God, that's got to be my soulmate. We got the same favorite color. What are you talking about? I need to know, do we have similar morals? Do we have similar vision? Do we have similar values? Do we have similar work ethic? So we're similar enough to connect. This is this organic, unforced connection. But then, we distinct enough to complete. It means we rich where the other person's poor. Because when you don't understand this, you will see the danger when you're too different. But you won't see the danger in duplication. Because duplication can be dangerous just like difference. Because if we both got the same weaknesses, we in trouble. Did you hear what I just said? If you're not rich where I'm poor, we're still vulnerable in the same area. We just compounded our weaknesses. Did you hear what I just said? Both of us can't be bad with money. Both of us can't be bad with people. Both of us can't be weak in our faith. Some of us have to be rich while the other person's poor. Now here's the problem. This distinction often creates some tension. And it's tension that we don't want. But the tension brings the balance you need. So you don't like the tension, but you need the balance. You spend too much, she spends too little, it creates tension, but it brings balance. Let me go over here. You don't take enough risk, they take too much risk, it creates tension, but it brings balance. You don't trust nobody, they trust everybody, it creates tension. And some of us have been so traumatized by toxicity in relationships, you think all tension is toxic. So you treat the asset of tension like it's a liability. You with me? Similar enough to connect, distinct enough to complete, capable enough to fulfill. God's in the garden, animals are in the garden, and God makes this observation, comes to this conclusion. It's something you need. You aren't going to get directly from me, and you can't get from animals. Eve's going to meet a relational need.
Y'all literally read my mind this morning. I was probably about 5 minutes
So
away
there are
from
all
texting
sorts of
to
needs.
see if I could come in
We
earlier.
got this one,
Because
we got to have food, clothing,
we got,
shelter, right?
like,
Then you got spiritual
meet
needs.
the teacher tonight for Caleb.
With God.
Adam
We
and
got
I
emotional
cheer.
needs. We got relationships.
And like,
Needs that are met in the
Jack
context
was
of
a
a
cheer
relationship.
mom, so she's like, alright, I need you to take Adam to cheer.
The question
And I was like, I
is,
got
know what you're wrong. Because if you don't have a filter to net whether or not
Yeah,
they have
and I got that
it.
text. I was like, oh, that's
And so now you're with them and mad for them not being something they can walk.
yeah. Well, I was about to, and then you guys beat me to it. And it was, I was literally about to be like, can I come in
Now
at
don't
2:30? And y'all
confuse
texted me,
capability with
I was
competence.
like, oh, yeah.
Capability deals with capacity. Competence deals with skill. So they may not always have the skill immediately. But if they're coachable and humble and correctable, then you can guide them on how to acquire the skill to meet the need that you have. And when people don't recognize this, they treat the major like it's minor, they treat the minor like it's major, and they walk away from a potentially providential partner over something that's trivial. They say things like, he came dressed, and you don't take him to Linux.
Anyway, told us, I got the email yesterday. Like, can y'all give me more?
Did you hear what I just said? If you don't take him to Linux and he got money, you can take him to Linux with his credit card. I like him, but he don't have no style. You the stylist. Baby, where this? Stop. Where this? Take that off. Go back. Take that off. Y'all not ready. I gotta go. Y'all. Hey, when I was writing this, I started feeling the way. It's the weirdest thing. I'm writing this sermon. Then I thought about, I'm like 19, 20 years old. Me and Pastor Shanika dated. And I knew it was my birthday. And she was so smooth with it. She said, "Oh, it's your birthday? I'm going to take you shopping." You going to take me shopping? Okay. Take your boy shopping? I'm telling Katie, yeah, she taking me shopping. Yeah. Give me these outfits. She picking out all she picking it. We went to North Park Mall, County Line Road, Jackson, Mississippi, to a store called Dillard's. She picking out nautical outfits. Y'all don't know about that. And Britt, now when I started putting this message together, I thought about it. She was like, "This is a good man, Savannah, but I got it. He from Kilmichael, he needs some hit." She said, "Let me get this boy these Stacey Adams while we eat." Similar enough to connect, distinct enough to complete, capable enough to fulfill. Because desirability doesn't mean suitability. So what metrics do I use? What filter do I use? What criteria do I create to see if we're similar enough to connect, distinct enough to complete, capable enough to fulfill? This is where our text becomes a textbook that can offer us an insight in this particular area. You see, Genesis 24 gives us a schematic for suitability. The word Genesis means origin or beginning. So the content contained in the book of Genesis is content that exposes us to origins and beginnings. content contained in Genesis, most of it tracks the life of biblical characters. Some of the content contained in Genesis is what's called descriptive. It is describing what happened, but not endorsing what happened. Does that make sense? Okay, so after the flood, Noah has too much Merlot. Stop sanitizing the scriptures. Too much Merlot. It's called Pinoir? What's it called? Oh, is that right? No, y'all know what I'm talking about though. Too many French 75s. It's descriptive, not prescriptive. Abraham lies and calls his own wife his sister. That's descriptive, describing what should happen, but not prescriptive, not prescribing. But then there are some lessons we see in the life of biblical characters. And God exposes us to what happened with them because it gives some education and some insight for us. And Genesis 24 is one of those passages. This shouldn't just be descriptive concerning what Abraham did. We can look at it and we should see some prescriptions for what we should do. Because even though this text is not about dating, dating's not in the Bible, this text is about spouse selection. And you have a man who clearly hears from God, who's called a friend of God, who's called the father of the faith, who gives very clear criteria to his senior servant about what to look for when you're choosing a spouse for my son. The fact that, he gets specific. He made the servant. Now, this is just a symbol of swearing. It was metaphorical. It was covenantal in a sense. He says, hey, I need you to swear, because I don't know if I'm going to be around, but I need you to swear that you're going to follow this criteria when it comes to picking a wife for my son. This shows us something about the way Abraham saw divine sovereignty versus human responsibility. His attitude wasn't just, God got it. Come on. He could have just said, I'm going to pray about it, and God got it. He told that servant, I need you for this. Because the same spirit that I'm waiting to speak to me to say, this the one. It's the same spirit that can help me not see them first, but see me first. Because he knows me better than I know myself. And show me, and then show me whether or not they're showing me what I need to see to determine whether or not they for me. Did you hear what I just said? So in the text we see several areas where I'm arguing Abraham encourages his servant to explore suitability. Yes, you see prayer in the text. We don't talk about that they prayed, but he also watched, he looked. So there are a few areas in the text we see. And these areas that Abraham looked at should just be areas we look at. Does that make sense? So when we're dating and we're gathering data, we're having conversations to extract this information. First area, right here in the text, is their spiritual suitability. Pastor, where you get this from? Verse 3. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven, that you will not get a wife for my son among the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I'm living. See, when Abraham makes a statement, this is not about ethnicity, it is not about geography, it is about idolatry. The Canaanites were an idolatrous people. And Abraham knew very clearly that whoever my son marries, he's not just marrying them, he's marrying what influences them. In the New Testament, unequally yoked. Now, when Paul uses this, he's not talking about that. He's not talking about covenantal relationships, he's not talking about marital relationships. He says, don't be yoked together with unbelief. Am I making sense? But if it applies to non-covenantal relationships, why would it not apply to covenantal relationships? Now, when he uses this language, that people who would be familiar with some imagery that we are not, which is why we do a lot of guesstimating and pontificating about what this means. A lot of times it's strong and wrong. What Paul is using here is an agricultural analogy that we see even mentioned specifically, I think, in the book of Deuteronomy, where Israel is advised, do not yoke an ox and a donkey together. Do Did you hear what I just said? So this apparatus that they use to plow a field, he said, don't put an ox on one side and a donkey on the other side. If you got an ox on one side and a donkey on the other side, it's unequally yoked. Number one, an ox is stronger than a donkey, and a donkey is more stubborn than an ox. So when the master tells the ox to plow, the ox will move, but the donkey might stand still. Did you hear what I just said? Now, the only way this works is if you're an ox that act like a donkey. It means you don't take your religion seriously. So if you just kind of have in, they don't have to be in at all. But if you're one that's listening to God, submitted to the scriptures, got your ear open toward heaven, trying to really do this thing third way, you're going to hit a point where the master's going to say, move, sell, buy, don't do that, serve, tithe, this, that. And you're ready to move, and the donkey's like, why we got to do that? At some point, that friction, that exhaustion is going to create resentment. Because you're going to have two people showing up in a relationship different. I'm showing up trying to love you like Christ. So I'm trying to be patient and long-suffering, and you moody, temperamental, attitudinal. I'm trying to be generous, you stingy. Y'all are talking to me like I'm trying to keep no record of wrong. You keep reading out my list of wrongs. I keep turning the other cheek. You keep exploiting my humility. Because I won't do back to you what you'll do to me. You keep doing it. You keep playing me. Because I take my Christianity seriously. At some point, you're gonna get tired of dragging that donkey. And then you'll be looking at God, and God's like, you got under this yoke. I got to. Here it is. So this means spiritual suitability does not mean we just share the same faith. Just because they say it does not mean they say it. So it doesn't just mean we share the same faith. It means we share the same spiritual values within the context of our faith. So it's not just, are you Christian? It's like, okay, you can still be a narcissist, a gaslighter, a liar, a manipulator, a thief. What kind of Christian are you? What kind? Does that make sense? So if you're biblically balanced, but they're incarcerated with legalism, how that's going to work? I'm saying that because when I first met First Lady, I started preaching at 19. I was a legalist, a Pharisee of Pharisees. This is how big a Pharisee I was. See, some of y'all are too young for what I'm about to get ready to go. But back in my day in college, we had something called CD players. This is the young section. What the old section? They're like, what's that? What? Okay, right here. Huh? 6-disc CD changer. When you got in somebody's car, you see something that looked like a photo album. You open that thing up. You got CDs all in there. So me and First Lady dated. I get in her car, she had this little green Geo Prism. I get in the car. John, I get in the car. I pick up that little album. I open that album. And I say, what is the meaning of this? Now this is about to be too old for some of y'all. I open the album, I see Juvenile. Master P. Lil Wayne before the tattoos. I get in the car, all I hear is, the block is hot, the block is hot, 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 the block is hot, the block is hot, hot, hot. It's bad. I said we need some Donnie McClurkin in here and some Kurt Frank. I made her throw those CDs away and I gave her Donnie McClurkin, Fred Hammond's Pages of Life, and Kurt Franklin. GP, are you with me? Just a Pharisee. I was so bad. I was so bad. She literally, because my pastor was coaching and counseling us while we were dating. I was so bad. After our first date, she told my pastor. Let me tell you how bad I was. On the first date, I took her to a Creflo Dollar convention. And she went, I don't know what. She told my pastor called me, she said, Sunday, call me Sunday. Sunday, you got to have some balance. It's funny when you're dating. It's a problem when you're married. Yeah, they're a Christian, but is there compatibility, suitability in terms of the way you're practicing your faith? Because if you're a person that believes that the scriptures lead to an integrated whole life, well, like the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon says you enjoy the fruit of your labor, you enjoy the wife of your youth. If you believe that the Song of Songs is in the Bible as a powerful picture, not just of Christ's relationship with the church, but as a powerful picture of possibility for those of us who are in covenantal relationship with one another, you have to have some balance. And I'm not saying if that sort of expression of Christianity works for you, cool. But if not, you're in for a lifelong tension. You're going to be on the beach in Cabo, and they're going to have you in a blue jean skirt and tennis shoes. Y'all not. Y'all listen to me. They tired, yo. Let's play. Let's start. Y'all listen to me. Everything I'm teaching you is from the perspective of a person who is helping people navigate problems on the other side of the covenant. I'm telling you, this is the stuff that show up. You have to check this. If not, you'll be inside the covenant. Now you got to tolerate it. You got to break covenant, or you got to stay broken. Then there's character compatibility. Where do you see that, Pastor? Verse 5, the servant asks him, what if the woman is unwilling to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you came from? Notice the word that he uses, willingness. Now look what happens in verse 8. Abraham says in verse 8, okay, if she's unwilling to come back with you, then you'll be released from this oath of mine. Just don't take my son back there. So willingness here speaks to adaptability, flexibility, amenability, movability.
Oh, I get to go to church.
Spiritual